you tell I'm in denial?
You can't stay at the top forever.
I was also very surprised when I looked at my phone and saw Joe Girardi dismissed.
Well, I think mine were with common sense.
I think now belongs in the all-time greats top 10.
Boston, I really think only got to this point because of a guy named Chris Middleton being out for the Bucks.
That power play just was unbearable. It was humming.
Man, am I happy. I knew that this was going to happen. I knew he was going to come back.
When I think of New York Yankees now is Judge, probably people in the past when Jeter was coming up.
I would be shocked. A little bit hurt.
Hey, this is Greg Tepper of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, TexasFootball.com, and Valley Sports Southwest. You are listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week. And not free agency yet, but the Jets, I would say, made a shocking, I think, I won't speak for Austin, of course, the man beside me, but Aaron Rodgers is not returning to the Jets. The Jets made that decision. And Austin, did you expect them to keep him?
I didn't think they would, but I did think it was a possibility. I didn't think they were going to decide this quickly, but I did not think they were going to bring him back, no.
I thought he was going to come back, just kind of the way things have been invested in him. Like they had Nathaniel Hackett, then they fire Robert Saleh. They bring in another guy. But I really like this from the Jets because it was kind of over. Like you tried it. It was a terrible experiment. But I really like this from the Aaron Glenn perspective of the new head coach for the Jets. It really gives him the culture. It shows he has the power, which I think is a huge thing to talk about. But very interested to see what happens now with the Jets because they need a quarterback. But I'm glad they're kind of like, yeah, we're done with the circus act with Aaron Rodgers. So I think this was kind of a belief in Aaron Glenn and not, okay, we got a new guy that will still work with Aaron Rodgers. No, it's really, this to me shows it's Aaron Glenn's team.
Yeah, and I mean, the question of the video is Aaron Rodgers done? He said that he wanted to return to the Jets if possible, if he was going to return. He never said he was going to return, but he said if he was going to return, it would be with the Jets. But now, obviously, that is now not going to happen. So does this mean that he retires from football? Does he take a year off and see what happens? Does he play another game in the NFL?
I do think he plays another game. I do like what you mentioned of taking a year off. I don't think it's going to be a traditional sense with Aaron Rodgers. That's kind of what his end of career has been like. The problem, though, is looking at quarterbacks this year, or just kind of like teams that need a quarterback, or I think where you could see it, you don't see many teams that would change their quarterback, in my opinion, this offseason.
There's teams that would want to, but there's some teams that aren't really they don't really have the ability to do so.
Yeah.
And that's more pointing Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Colts have question marks. We'll have to see what happens with AR because he really did have a rough go of things. Tennessee's obviously going to be looking. New York's obviously going to be looking. Whether that's draft or free agency, we'll see. I know that the Giants were not necessarily loving the best QB talent in the draft. I don't know if you saw that, but
no, I've not. I did see a billboard for the Colts saying we're not signing Aaron Rodgers or don't sign Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think Ursay listens to billboards in the city. But I still think there's a fair amount of teams that are at least questioning. I think the Panthers are going to give another go with Bryce Young and are confident that he's made enough strides, but they're definitely still having questions about it. The Saints have questions regarding Derek Carr. Is Derek Carr going to stay healthy for this coming season? And if not, do you move off from him now? So I'd say, what's going to happen with Geno Smith with Seattle? Because his contract's up. So I do think there's a lot of teams that are going to be asking questions.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of teams that are questioning. It's just, could it be realistic? Because you kind of have, like the Falcons, they have Michael Penix, but I think Kirk Cousins is going to be available. So I'm curious. And then
Gino has another year on his contract, but it's $45 million. It's this year, and do you want to pay him $45 million or trade him?
Yeah, and Cleveland's a huge example of like they need a better quarterback, but they just can't financially.
Yeah,
they're both trying to get out of that contract.
I think there's questions regarding Kyler.
Yep, but it's big contract as well, and just kind of like, do you want to move off that for Aaron Rodgers right now?
I would say no, maybe? But I could see some of those teams deciding to go another way. What's going to happen with the Steelers?
Yeah, because Russell Wilson, also Justin Fields.
Well, Russell Wilson, I know his contract's up because it was a 1-year deal. Same thing with Justin Fields. Yeah, I don't think they have a QB under contract.
They don't. But I think they want to bring Russell Wilson back, but they could let Fields go and then bring Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers together. And then you kind of, like you mentioned, the Titans, Giants. I'm trying to think.
Raiders.
Raiders. Yeah. But they're probably going to go in the draft and draft someone. So it's just. Do you think?
But also, I feel like, I mean, mine's been to start a guy ahead of your rookie and not start your rookie. I've been a big proponent of not starting rookie quarterbacks. I think they learn better from it. I know we've done a whole video dedicated to it, but that usually seems to work. But I could definitely see one of those teams signing maybe not an Aaron Rodgers, but a older guy to mentor and start in front of one of those rookie QBs.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I do think you have to have the right personality for that quarterback. I think Kirk Cousins would have been I think he still was nice to Michael Penix, but he just wasn't expecting them to draft a rookie quarterback after signing him a 4-year deal. I think he's someone that could do that. I don't see Rodgers doing that. Rodgers would be like, no, my team. But if you sign him to a 1-year deal, maybe. It's just I don't see a team that's like Aaron Rodgers. I know there have been jokes about the Vikings, which I would find hilarious, but I don't see them doing that. They have JJ McCarthy.
The Vikings already have a plan. It also, I think teams that are more systematic with how they decide on their quarterbacks, such as the Vikings, because of how good they have such good coach, and their GM has been very good recently. Like, I'd say the last 3, 4, 5 years. So I just don't think they're going to go with someone like Rodgers, like we've seen. They're not in that state of desperation. They just won 14 games. So they can afford to test some things out and see if it can work with a rookie QB. And even if it doesn't work with that rookie QB, you still can make the playoffs. So I don't think they're necessarily worried about going in a different direction regarding Aaron Rodgers. I think it would have to be someone a little bit more name brand. But, I mean, there's still other teams out there that I think are desperate to keep as competitive. And if you think that Aaron Rodgers could do it better than how he did it in New York with the Jets, then I think that they can make that move. But I don't know if it's going to be this offseason that he does it.
I feel like something happens this offseason. I just can't see the pathway. But that's just something to me is like you can sort of predict what Aaron Rodgers is going to do, but also not. Like I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I could definitely see him returning in a year. But man, I don't think he's done with football. But we'll have to see.
I just feel like these last 3 years, it would be hard to end off your career.
Yes.
Like he has. I mean, everyone went to New York and they thought they were contenders, let alone a playoff team. They thought they were contenders.
Yeah.
They didn't even make the playoffs, and they had a better record under Zach Wilson than they did with Rodgers. Now, the Achilles injuries was unforeseen, and I definitely think that definitely hurt Aaron Rodgers' past season. But at the same time, I mean, it was definitely a very disappointing year and under expectations, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. People definitely saw them in the contenders, and there just wasn't structure. And that's what I think Rodgers going to go to. He's not going to go to a structured team like you talked about the Vikings because they're going to understand what they saw happen with the Jets. I do think the Saints are a wild card because they're always just a wild team, but they do have Derek Carr. So we'll have to see. But I'm very interested in what happens. We appreciate all your thoughts. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.